Hey guys, what's going on? It's your old pal CHH here. So as you know, the other week or so, I've been going through my movies and reorganizing stuff, and I'll tell you, I've been on my DVD kick lately, again, surprise, and actually, I decided I needed to be able to have all my DVDs in a spot in here, so what I'm doing is I'm getting a big rotating shelf that's going to go right over there. And I'm going to house Anchor Bay stuff, vintage DVDs, and stuff like that. It's actually going to be really, really cool, which I think you guys will probably get a kick out of. But in the process of getting my DVDs kind of pulled out and prepping for that, I was going through my Texas Chainsaw stuff, and it's the 50th anniversary this year, which is amazing, right? The greatest, in my opinion, the greatest horror movie literally ever made. We got spoiled last year. We got some great releases. We got the Second Sight 4K release, and we got this great Steelbook release of the first movie. And I love that Dark Sky. They figured out what's popular, what's popping right now. That's original artwork. It's back. People love that. So they gave us this gorgeous Steelbook. The movie looks great on 4K. It's probably one of the greatest 16mm films. I think it's the greatest horror movie of all time, right? That's just me. I know that's not everybody's, that's not everybody's choice, but for me, it's this movie. It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But as I was going through my movies, I was looking at a release I had for this movie, and I was just like, man, I gotta talk to the audience about this, because, it seems like a lot of you that watch my channel, you're a collector, right? And it's not just the picture quality. That's important. But it's the history, the history of the release, when it came out, what it did, the importance of it. And this release I want to show you guys, to me, is incredible. So before I get to that, I will say, there's going to be another release this year, like a special collector's version of Texas Chainsaw that's supposed to be coming out. That's going to be like in a chainsaw and all that. We haven't seen any pictures of that at the time of this recording, but maybe Dark Sky will announce that sort of thing soon. But anyway, getting past that, got the Steelbook, loved this movie. So back in 2009, I think, maybe 10, I got into horror. I've told the story 1,000 times, just very, very briefly. Got bit by the bug, went to Spirit Halloween when I was at the tail end of my high school years, and I was just enamored. And I was like, I gotta watch all these movies that I know exist. I mean, I had seen the Rob Zombie Halloween films. You guys know the story. If you're a fan of the channel, you know the story. So, long story short, I'm going to FYE, and I've watched the Fridays, I've watched the Elm Streets, I've watched the Halloweens. I remember seeing Texas Chainsaw 2 as a kid, and there was the Texas Chainsaw VHSs that I bought from my video store, Blockbuster, when they were selling the VHS tapes to, get rid of those and just keep the DVDs in there. And I remember I wanted to go watch the movie. I was going to watch the VHS of it. I was like, that's fine, but my mom got rid of them. It's a shame. I had the media VHS of Texas Chainsaw 1 and Part 2. With all that being said, I go to the FYE. I'm like, well, I need to own Texas Chainsaw. I got to have it on DVD. I have to have it. I got this release that, looking back, I didn't realize the how precious this release was going to be heralded years later, and how nice it was. It was just, this is what was there. And Dark Sky Films has had Texas Chainsaw for many, many, many years. So I'm going to show you guys this, and I want to talk about this release, guys. This is probably one of the coolest Steelbooks ever, and it's an early Steelbook. The Texas Chainsaw 2-disc Ultimate Edition of the movie. Now look at that, guys. That is sensational. Now, I typically always like the original artwork, but I'm going to tell you why I prefer this. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but get a look at that. The original, restored, remastered Dark Sky Films. Obviously, with this being a Steelbook, it's bigger. There's your side-by-side. It's a DVD Steelbook. When I got this, I just was like, wow, I didn't even know what to call this. Like, I remember getting this in my hands, looking at it, and I was like, wow. And mine has got a little bit of wear on it. You can see some dents and scratches. Not dents. There's actually no dents on it, but little scratches and scuffs, like on the top and everything. But this release, I didn't realize how amazing this was. So this is a 2-disc Ultimate Edition of the movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, original remastered. Now, the thing about Texas Chainsaw Massacre that's impressive is it was a movie that was constantly remastered and worked on for home video releases. Going back to the Laserdisc, we got the 1993 release of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was shown as the fully uncut version. That came out in 1983. That had a great VHS release that also had a Laserdisc release, which I have the Laserdisc release of the 1993 fully uncut version. Then in 1996, they did a extremely remastered, like, went back again, and Toby did a complete remaster of the film, retimed, color-timed everything. And on that Laserdisc, the 1996 Elite, which I have, he even says on there, the movie hasn't looked this good since I looked through my lens on set, basically. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre was always a movie that was getting good treatment. But what's interesting about this release as well is it continues that trend of the restorations. Now, restorations today is like, that's what everybody's talking about. Like, back then, when I saw, like, on the back, when I read this, Dark Sky Films presents this masterpiece like you've never seen or heard before. Let me show you this, give you this little artwork while I read this. Newly transferred in high definition from the 16mm camera originals, remixed in 5.1 and 2.0 stereo, and featuring never-before-seen bonus material produced exclusively for this definitive collection. That went over my head. Like, I had no idea about restorations at that time. I just thought, you know, you put the movie on the disc and it's supposed to look better because it's on a disc. Like, my ignorance was... You know the expression, ignorance is bliss, you know? But looking back, this release was done so well, and you have to give this release credit because I don't know how much more stuff was done for this one. There was a new documentary done for this one, but I thought it was okay. The general consensus on the new documentary was thumbs in the middle to thumbs down. And I can't really argue with those people that say that because the reality is... This release says every single thing you could possibly say about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and people were still alive. So, as you can see, there is a slew of bonus features. We're going to read these together, guys. I'm going to take a nice picture of this so you can read this. Let's go over the bonus features on this release, then we'll look inside and look at the discs and everything. Okay, on disc 1, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre new high-definition transfer from the 16mm camera originals. We got a 5.1 and 2.0 surround soundtracks, digitally remastered original mono soundtrack, feature-length commentary with Marilyn Burns, Paul A. Pertain, Alan Danziger, and art director Robert A. Burns, feature-length commentary with Toby Hooper, cinematographer Daniel Pearl, and actor Gunnar Hansen. Gunnar was still with us at this point. Theatrical trailers, TV spots, and radio spots. On disc 2, this is where things get interesting. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Shocking Truth documentary. People herald that till this very day as probably one of the absolute best documentaries. Flesh Wounds documentary, a tour of the TCSM house with Gunnar Hansen. Deleted scenes and outtakes, blooper reel, outtakes from The Shocking Truth, and Still Gallery. There's even a technical data side right here where it says it's a feature, it's 84 minutes. They give you all the technical stuff on disc 2. But here's something I literally never noticed until looking at this release again. This release was associated with Synapse Films. Obviously, people today know Synapse for their releases. They're a company that's putting up physical media. We're waiting for their Trick or Treat, which is probably not happening for Halloween, but that's a whole different story. But let's look at the back and read this. It says right here, Restoration Consultant, Don May Jr., Synapse Films. So, I never noticed that before. And so this thing came out in 2006. So for this to come out in 2006, this is a sensational release. Now, this may be controversial to say. Some of you may say, well, Christian, that's great, you know, but you can't beat the original poster art for the Steelbook. And I'm not going to say it's better. The DVD is better. But I will say this. You can't deny they managed on this Steelbook to actually get the feel of the movie as well as the original poster art. Now, if you're like, how do you think that, Christian? Okay, let's go back to the beginning of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where we hear the voice talking, going over what the police found, the grave-robbing body, blah, blah, blah. We pan out into that desert heat where we see the body on the tombstone, that burnt gold hue of Texas in the beginning of that film. This Steelbook completely captured that feel. I can feel that Texas heat, looking at the Steelbook, and it's amazing. So, yeah, there's the spine. Let me show you guys the spine of this Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You got Leatherface right there in Dark Sky. So let's see the inside. And what's great about this, too, guys, is, you know, the way they stack these discs is very good. I'm always happy when they do that. You know, it's always better to me than the stacking on top of each other, right? But look at that shot of Marilyn Burns. Well, that's not Marilyn, that's the other girl. But look at there in the inside with Gunnar, and man, that's sensational. So cool. And let's see what's on the back side of these discs. But yeah, this was the way I watched the movie again, really, for the first time on home video. Really for the first time on home video ever. Because I do remember me and my brother watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre on MTV. Right when we moved into our new house after Hurricane Katrina, we settled in to our house. And it was like one of the first nights me and my brother were watching TV after we got cable set up. It was probably mid to late 2006, so it had to have been August, September, probably about right this time. It would be even trippy if I'm recording this the same night I watched it. That would be fate, right? But we watched it on TV, and that's like, I remember thinking, I'm going to have to own that movie. I want to see that movie again one day. And that's when I got the VHS at Blockbuster not long after that. So, yeah, this is such a cool Steelbook, and, you know, it's a DVD Steelbook. So, you know, the best way to watch this movie, in my opinion, is definitely the Steelbook, or the 4K. Not necessarily the Steelbook, but like the 4K version, because it was restored very well, and I even think the second sight one does edge it out a little bit. And as a matter of fact, I think they did their own transfer for it, and they might have dialed things in a little bit differently. I do think the second sight one is the absolute best way to watch it. But I'm not gonna lie, you know, there's a thing with Texas Chainsaw that people say that I used to have a real problem with. Oh man, I gotta watch Texas Chainsaw on VHS. I gotta blah, 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 blah. And I find it silly still a little bit, besides the nostalgia factor. But I do understand what people mean. And, you know, it is a gritty movie, and it is a voyeuristic kind of film. And it is one of those movies that it looks burnt, and it looks hot, and it looks like it's just a messed up looking movie. This is actually still, I watched this before doing this. This is actually a really good way to watch the movie still. And because it is restored, but it can't hit that barrier, that crystal clear barrier that you can get with the Blu-ray or 4K. But this actually has that vintage vibe to it, but still a good looking picture. So it's just one of those things, guys. I don't know who owns this. There's a multiple DVD releases for the film. But when it comes to the DVD releases, I gotta say, if you can get your hands on this beautiful Texas Chainsaw Massacre DVD Steelbook, the 2-disc Ultimate Edition, I mean, that Shocking Truth documentary, I don't think it's ever going to be beaten. I think it's probably the greatest one. Family Portrait's fantastic, but yeah, the Shocking Truth, I think, is just sensational. So, yeah, I thought you guys would get a kick out of that, guys. This is Dark Sky Films showing their love for TCM back in 2006. This movie has to be keeping them, you know, keeping all the lights on for them, because I don't know how many movies Dark Sky has. I mean, they put stuff out a lot. But yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like the movie to have if you're a company putting out physical media. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Check your video stores. Look out for this, guys. This is a piece of physical media history, and it predates the Steelbook craze, which I also find very interesting. So yeah, I thought you guys would get a kick out of that, guys. The 2006 Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2-disc Ultimate Edition Steelbook from Dark Sky Films. A great release and a great piece of physical media history. Happy 50th anniversary to the greatest horror film of all time, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Huge giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind the scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.